Good morning, everyone. So in the last session, we are trying to discuss about the message concept here. So this is the important example we are trying to discuss. Like we got some exceptions here. Now those exception we need to discuss one more time. What is the solution for this particular exceptions here? Okay. So what we are trying to discuss here, we created some of the files here. Okay, I modified this particular text here. If you go to this particular Spring JDBC, we'll understand how it is how we created here. Now here you can see whatever the message, now I replaced with this particular training test. You can write anything. So this is not a matter here. But the problem, what we identified here, so these are all this particular, like this is the German related format. This is, and this is for the US related section. And this is for Japan related, the message I'm trying to providing here. And finally, this is the default information. Okay, so we have four property file we created. Now what I identified here, we trying to debug, like I debugged yesterday, and now I got some idea how these applications are working internally. Okay, the message concept, how it is working internally. I will try to show you one more time how we did some wrong informations here. So that if you go to this, here I'm trying to run this particular section. So from here, application context also, we can load this particular messages here. Okay, now I'm running this example. This is important, we need to understand here. Now I'm calling this particular message. So whatever the message source we identified yesterday, the same message source it's calling internally. So here we are trying to creating this particular message source. From where it is coming? From our jdbc file. Okay, so now you can see here resource bundle message source. Here if you want to see, this is the resource bundle message source. And what is the base name we are providing? Training test. Where we are providing this particular information? So here we are providing. So this is the bean is loading. Okay, the bean is loading it. So after loading this particular bean, now what we are doing is we are trying to call this particular get message method. Now we call get message source. Internally, the message source is loaded. Now it's the time to call this particular get message. Now you can see I'm calling this. Now internally we are calling this particular get message internally. So what is the shortcut keyword? We need to go to this particular method F5. So because we are trying to move inside this particular method. Now what is the code we provided? Something like a computer value we are trying to load in the Japanese format here. So arguments in the zero index location. And so what is the another important section what we can understand here? One second. Okay, so back to here, string code, we are trying to pass this particular computer. The computer value we are trying to load here. Okay, so finally, now you can see what we are doing here. The code is not null, local is also not null. We are trying to check this particular condition. Okay, so the line number 188, the condition is satisfying here. Now we are moving into this is the another important section what we can understand here, something like resolve code with arguments here. Okay, resolve code with argument we are trying to discuss here. This method we are going to call internally with help of this particular code and a local. So what is the local I'm passing? So it is something like Japan I given here. Where I given? Here I given. Okay, so in the Japanese format, now it will try to convert the values. How I am getting this particular value? So this particular local, if I'm going to show you J underscore JP, JA underscore JP. So how I'm getting here? Now if you go to this Japan, here you can see, so we have a two values with help of this particular constant here. We are trying to converting this with help of this particular underscore. With help of this particular underscore. Now if you go to this here, what we are doing is with help of this particular base locale, we are trying to creating instance here. Okay, so this is the base locale it is going to create internally, and after this, what we are doing is we are trying to returning the same information. Okay, so anyway, we are finally calling the resolve code without argument method. Now I'm trying to debug this particular method. Now we'll see. So what is the base length we are having? What is the base name? Something like a training text here. Getting the point. So if we want to say this is the base name we are having the resource bundle. Now finally the base name we are having training text I provided. Okay. So this is the only one object we are having. Now the result now I value you can see. Okay, length we can check. Length here now you can see only one and I value 0. Getting the point. Only this loop will repeat one time, and internally I am calling the resource bundle method. The get resource bundle. This is the important method. Okay. Now if I'm going to debug this resource bundle, so we discuss here cache is not satisfying. Okay, now it is time to check this particular. So do get bundle method. Internally what we are passing up to this same, the base name and a locale. Base name and a locale we are passing. Now you can see. So again, what we will do, we'll try to call this particular default bundling, default the class loader we are loading it, and after this we are calling this particular get bundle. Now you can see loader is not null. So if the loader is not null, again we are calling this particular get bundle impl method. Okay. Now you can see again I'm calling this particular default constructor, sorry, default control we are calling, and finally we are moving into this particular get bundle impl. Internally we are checking this particular get bundle impl, and after this, so now you can see module I'm calling condition is not satisfying, so here we are checking, and this is the get bundle impl. One more bundle impl I'm calling. So here this is important. What we are doing is we are trying to create the cache key. Okay, so we are trying to setting this particular cache object here. Now you can see what is the base name, training test, and what is the locale we are having. So j underscore jp, so module and caller module. Now what you need to understand here, this is important here, resource bundle, and after this with help of this particular cache list get key, I'm trying to load this particular information. So what is the cache key we are having? So this is the cache key we are having, something like a locale and the training texture base name. Okay, we are trying to creating it. So now we'll check this. So any object we are having? No. From the cache list, we did not get any object here. Now I'm trying to come with the below statements here. So format. So these formats are important. Getting the point. So this particular formats only is playing the important role. Now what are the format we are having? So first one is Java Java.class, and another one is Java.property. So this is important information. So two formats we are on. Based on this particular base name. What is the base name? Training test. Now internally, what is doing internally? It is loading the two format, this particular format. So either with help of the name of the class, we can create a bundle, or with help of this particular properties, we are going to create the bundle. But in our example, we are trying to create the bundle with help of this particular property file. Okay, so we identify the two properties we are checking, and now we are coming back to this. So this is the for loop here. Now you can see we are defining the for loop, and this section we can call it as a initialization, and this section we can call it as a what we can call it as this condition, and this section we can call it as a iteration. So these are all the three statements we have inside this particular for loop. So observe how they implemented this particular for loop internally. This is important here. So just creating the locale, and they're checking the locale target locale not equals to null, and finally they're trying to move on to the particular control information. Okay, so this is important we identified, and after this we are checking the condition is satisfying. So because whatever the locale we are having, the j underscore jp, we are trying to setting into this particular target locale. Okay, so this is important. After this, so with the help of this particular target locale and base name, I'm trying to locate loading this particular locale. So now if you see how many locale we are trying to load here, how many the candidate locale we are loading, two. So now you can see first one is this, second one is JA. Getting the point. Now you can create the property file with help of this particular sections here. So either you can create the J underscore JP or you can create JA. Okay. Now, so we created this section here. Now it is trying to identify. So we have the two locale, like it's like an array it's trying to return here. Now we need to check this. Okay. Condition is failed. Now finally this method we are calling. So find bundle method. Okay. So this find bundle method, what it will do internally. So we need to debug this method also. What we are passing, model we are passing. Okay. So cache key we are passing. Inside the cache key only we are having the particular locale. And after this, so we are passing the format and base bundle. So candidate locale. Okay. So these are all the parameters we are passing. Now if I'm going to discuss this, so this is the recursive method. This is important here. This is the recursive method. So now how they implemented this particular recursive method. So if you observe the same bundle method we are calling it, and how many parameters we are having, first, second, third and fourth, fifth, sixth, seven and eight parameters. Now you can copy this first parameter, second parameter, third parameter and fourth parameter, fifth, sixth and seven and eight parameters. Okay. So all the parameters are matching. Name of the method also it's matching. So find bundle method. Okay. So first time it is calling from the outside here. Now we'll discuss here how the second time it is going to match here. So with help of this particular get index here, what is the index we are having? Something like 0. Now if you observe the candidate locale get we are trying to call here. Now we'll identify what is we are getting here in the 0 index location. So J underscore JP we are going to get. Okay. So this is the target locale. Now what happens internally? We'll try to discuss about this. So condition is satisfying. Once a condition is satisfying here, again we are calling the same method. Now if I'm going to discuss this, the same method is calling. So this is the second time. Okay, this is second time we need to understand. Now what is the information we can understand? In the first time, what we identified, J underscore JP. Okay, this is important. And in the second time, what is the target locale we are getting? Something like JA. Something like JA we are getting. And after this, what we can understand here, now it is satisfying here. So once it is satisfying here, now finally one more time it is calling. So third time. Okay, this is important. So third time, what is the target locale? Now what we can understand here, the target locale is empty. Nothing is there. Okay, simply I'm trying to providing empty. Okay, this is empty. Now what you can understand, this condition is failing. This condition is failing. Okay, so with help of this particular target locale, now we need to understand here what happening. So now if you read this, so the conditions are failing, the while conditions are failing. Okay, so cache set locale, cache key dot set locale, this is important. Now what we are setting? Empty. Because the third iteration we are having empty value, the target locale. Now you can see nothing is printing. So I'm trying to repeat this. So find a bundle from this particular cache. So this bundle is null because so far we did not insert any record here. Now this condition is it's going to satisfy. Now this is the namer is failing it. So finally we are trying to load this particular bundle. Okay. Now what we are passing? Cache key we are passing, format we are passing, control and expired bundle. Okay. So inside the cache key, now you can see, so nothing is there. This locale is empty. This particular locale is empty. Important this is. Okay. And after this, we are trying to discussing this particular load bundle. And so from this particular cache key, again I'm loading this. This particular target locale is null, like empty. And we are loading the model. And from the model, again I'm trying to load the class loader. With help of this particular class load only, we'll try to load the property files or class information. Now, if you see this, now if you read this, what is the format we are having? What are the format we are having? Two formats. First one is java.class. Second one is java.properties. This is important here. Okay. Now, with help of this particular format, this loop will repeat 2 times here. Now, what happening internally? We are trying to creating the bundle. How we are creating the bundle? So this is important. We need to understand. This section will create the bundle objects here. Okay, the new bundle, it will try to create the object here. Now, if I'm going to run this, so it is trying to call the get bundle. Okay, now you can see. Now what we are doing is, so this method we are calling internally this two bundle name. So this two bundle name, what is, now observe carefully. So far bundle name, nothing. So just we declare here. Now what is the base name? Training test. Now what is the locale we are having? Something like empty. Okay. Now you can see what is the base bundle name it is having. So training test. Nothing is there. Nothing is there because as of now local is null. So what is the format is going to satisfy? Java.class. Now we are trying to load the class. So based on the training test, we don't have any class here. Now if you read this here, loader.class name, loader.load class name. What is the bundle name? Training test. Nothing is there. Okay. So based on this particular bundle name, we don't have any classes here. The class C is null. Getting the point? The particular class section is null. You can see here where we are having. Okay, we come out of this. Because of this, we could not identify this. Now we are trying to return the bundle null. Okay, first format. This is important. Now, so one more time, this section is going to repeat because we are inside this particular loop here. Now again, I'm calling this the same bundle here. Now you can see. So the bundle method will call here. Now to bundle. What we are passing again? Same thing. So because of this particular default locale, we are like the empty locale, not a default empty locale. We are not getting any information. Now you can see again I'm calling this. Right now it is matching the property file here, and this format is going to satisfy. So now what we are doing here, we are trying to load the format name here. Now you can see how it is trying to set here. Properties is going to appended here. Now if you observe, what is the resource name? Training text dot properties. This is important. Training test dot properties we are having. Okay, training test dot properties. Now what you need to understand here. So whether this particular training test dot property file we have, yes, we declare here. So where we declare, if you go to this, here we declare the training test dot properties. So default properties we declare. Now another important here, now you can see we are trying to move on to this particular input stream. So using this, we are going to load the object. So this particular section, the line number 3218, we are trying to load this object here. Now we'll see what is the resource name we are having. Okay, we are inside this particular anonymous section. Because of this, it is not identifying it, but we'll see resource. Here, this section will give you the resource where this particular file is available. So far, this particular file available under this particular D drive, something like a target classes and a training test dot properties. So finally, we are finding the path of this particular training test dot properties. Okay, finally, we are finding this particular path. Once we identify this particular path, now it is time to create the connection. Okay, so connection is created. So with help of this particular input stream, we are trying to creating one bundle object here. Now you can see we are getting this particular bundle object here. So what is the information is having right now? This bundle object will contain training test dot properties information. But what is the locale we provided? So Japan local view provided. So now this format, it is not matching here. Now anyway, we'll try to return this particular format here. After this, the bundle is null. We are setting the format here. What is the format we are having right now? So java.properties. Okay. After setting this, we are trying to load the name and target locale. So these are all empty locale. Now you can see empty locale we are setting. So this bundle, remember, this is important. This bundle can contain the locale is empty. So we are setting as a parent. Okay. The first record we are setting as a parent here. Now you can see we are pushing into the cache. Now we are returning. Now after this, so this is the recursive method we are calling. So recursive method, now because inside the recursive method only this code we executed. So finally, now again, first step is completed. This step is completed. Now we are going to move on to this second step. So here we are creating one bundle object. Okay. Now you can see what happens internally. So one more time, second time. So if you see this particular target rule, okay, you will understand GA. Getting the point. This is important here. So just now we discussed about this section. Now again we need to discuss about now this. So this particular section also again it will contain the two formats. The java.properties, again another important section, java.class. Now you can see. So again the target locale we are setting. Now you can see JA, and if you identify the cache key, if you identify this particular cache key, the locale is JA. Now what we can understand, the java.class. Okay, java.class basically it is going to fail, and java.properties. Java.properties what is going to expect here. So ja.properties. ja.properties. So right now this ja.properties also we don't have. Now I will show you this how it is going to work internally. So we are inside the second iteration. Okay, bundle we are checking. So again, the condition will not satisfy. Load bundle we are moving, and internally you can check this. So here format we are calling, inside the format we are calling this particular new bundle. Okay, now you can see bundle name. What is the bundle name we are having? So training underscore text and I underscore Java we are having. So this format is not going to satisfy. So once it is satisfied, once it will not satisfy, it will come back to the one more time. Now you can see, so one more format is repeating it. Now we're coming here. So now you can see this again, training text underscore JA. How it is identifying the underscore JA? This method. This method is making underscore recording this particular base name and locale. Okay, now you can see, so the Java.class will not satisfy. The format will satisfy now. We are trying to load the resource name. Now if you see training text underscore JA dot properties, any file we have based on this particular name, we don't have any file. So we don't have any file. Now if the file is not having, this object is not going to create, because this URL will get as a null. So if you say this, here, the URL is null. Now you can see URL is null. Why we are getting the null? The property file, whatever the property file we are having, the property file we don't have in our class path here. Getting the point? So JA underscore JP we have, but underscore JA we don't have any file. So the second format it is failing here. So now what you understanding is the recursive second method it is failing. Now we are coming back to here. Stream is not null, so we are trying to returning this empty bundle. Now it is failing. So now if you come back to here, so we are coming back to this particular bundle. Now you can see. So one more time. This is the final time. Now if I'm going to show you this, what is the target locale right now? JA underscore JP. With help of this particular JA underscore JP, we have a property file. Based on this particular property file, it will create the object here. The bundle object will create. Now simply we'll repeat fastly. We can understand here how it is creating it. So load bundle I'm calling internally. So this is, so again same format we are going to have for this, because it is a recursive method. It is trying to call multiple times here. Now you can see the same java.class, java.properties file. Okay. Now we'll understand here how it is creating this JA underscore JP class not file. It's failing here. Okay. So second time we'll call here the same format. Now it is calling. Now if you see this bundle name. Okay. Training text underscore JA underscore JP. Now it is appended with a property file. Now if you see this training test underscore JA underscore JP dot property file. This particular property file we created. Okay, this particular property file we created. So once we create here, what happens internally? We are trying to creating this particular URL. Now you can see URL object is created. So this is the location of this particular file. So this particular file is available under this particular location. Getting the point. Now once the URL is getting, so we are going to create the one bundle object. So now what you understand here? So we are getting the bundle object. Now this particular bundle will return this, all the information, cache information, all the information. And finally, we are trying to set the parent information, all the information. We're coming back to this. Now if you see this, from this particular bundle, we're coming back to here because the internal calling, because it is a recursive method, the whatever the internal callings we have, all the internal methods are called here. We are coming back to this. Now we are checking some conditions here. Now we are trying to return the bundle. Now you can see we are going back to this, and finally we are trying to set into the cache. Okay, here we are trying to set in the cache. The local map as of now empty. What is the base name? Training text. Okay. Now here you can see we are trying to setting this bundle. This particular bundle. Now if you see the local JA underscore JP. Now whatever the local we provided, it is matching here. Okay, whatever the local we provided, it is trying to create one bundle object. After this, we're trying to return the bundle. Now this bundle internally will load the value. So this method, it is going to load the value. Now what is the result we are having? So whatever the local we provided in Japan, and it is a computer name here. So some string I provided here, now it is returning the message. Now it is returning the message. From where it is coming here? Now this message we define inside this particular JA JP here. Now you can see we given the key as a computer. Now this is the message we are getting. Okay, this is the message we are getting. Now we identify the Japanese. Now another property I'm going to discuss here. Something like what we can check. So Chinese, whatever the Chinese we discussed in the last session, the same thing we'll discuss here. Okay, simplified Chinese. So what is the name we are going to have this? So ZH and CN. Based on this particular ZH underscore CN, the property file should available. Get in the point. The property file should available. So right now the property file is not available. Now what happens internally? If this particular file is not available, what is the default information? Okay. Now again I'm calling. So I will try to move on to the this particular message source we discussed here. Now I'm checking the get message. Now internally I'm calling the get internal. So the same method we are debugging here. Now you can see resource bundle. Okay. So cache. Now if you go to this particular get bundle, here we are trying to check the default information. Now I'm moving into the bundle section. Now you can see finally we are calling this particular get bundle IMPL. Now here cache we are setting it. So what is the cache we are having? The locale, if you observe, ZH underscore CN. So this ZH underscore CN dot property file should match here, but we'll see whether it is matching or not. So format, same format. Each and every the particular locale we are going to get same format. Okay. So now after creating this, now directly I will go to this particular same method. This is the recursive method just now we identified. So this particular find bundle. Now we'll see how this particular find bundle it is going to call internally. This is the same. How many times this particular find bundle will call? 3 times. Okay, how it is going to call 3 times here? Now I'm going to write the code here. First one is cn underscore. Okay, let me see the okay, not this. ZH underscore what is another one we are having? CN. Okay, so here capital CN, and second one is ZS, and third one is MD. Okay, this is the three repeated times it's going to call this particular find bundle method. Now if you go to this, I'm calling this first one is satisfying here. Now you can see what is the bundle name, training text we are calling. Okay, so this is will fail. Just now we discussed here, based on the dot class file, we are not creating any objects here, bundle objects here. Now second iteration, now it is coming here. Now training test again we are getting. Now we'll go to this particular property file. Now, so once the property file will match here, now what we are checking, training text dot properties, because it is a default one. So this default one, it is satisfying. Now once the default one is satisfying here, now what you need to understand, the default object is going to create. So this is we identified the default object. So if you see this URL, we are having the default training text dot properties. Okay. Now another important information what you need to understand is here. So bundle object we have created. Now we are trying to return it. This is important here. So single based on the default section. Based on this particular default section, we have created the object. So the bundle object is created. For what about these two sections? Now we need to discuss it whether the bundle object is going to create or not. Now because the default object, the bundle we are not getting null. Now you can see local cache empty. Nothing is there here. Okay. So I'm going to skip this. So object is created. Now it is setting to the basic information. And the second time it is calling. Okay, this is the second time. If you say this, what is the name of the bundle name? Same will get. And what is the local? ZH. ZH. So we don't have any file. If you say this, we'll get the null. Okay, we'll get the null. Now if you say this resource name, and we are having stream input here. What is the resource name we are having? So training test underscore ZH dot properties. So right now we don't have any property file. So once we don't have any property file, the URL, whatever the URL we are having, this URL will get as a null. You can see here we are getting null, or you can see here. So this is the internal code we cannot identify here, but so in the right side section, variable section, now you can see this null we are getting. The URL is null because the file is not available. What is the file we are trying to discussing here? The file name training text underscore ZH dot properties file. So this is the second object is failing. So we'll discuss about the third object, and we'll see. So Java class is matching here. We don't want to discuss this. So one more time calling this same method. Now we'll see the resource file. This is important. How the resource file is constructing? Training text underscore ZH underscore CN dot properties. Because it is a Chinese related section, we should create a one property file like this. So right now we don't have any properties. So now what we are doing here? So it is coming back to this stream. Again here the URL also will fail. So now you can see URL is null. Why the URL is null? Because we don't have any property file. So only with help of default we are creating an object, but the remaining section we are not creating an object here. Okay, this object, what is the object we are getting? Null. Getting the point. So this is important. So two sections it is failed. These two sections the bundle is null. Only here we are having the bundle, but default local, whatever the local we provided, it will not match this. The local, it will not match this. Now if you go to this, so these are all the unmatched records. Now we are trying to returning the null, and it is coming back to here. All the three operations are completed. Okay, three operations are complete. Now if you see this, so JS hashing it is creating it, but anyway we don't have any objects here. Anyway, so we don't have any objects here. So he is adding extra information. If you see this cache key, so with help of this particular underscore hash underscore hashens, it's creating it. But anyway, we don't have any files here. Now, if we don't have any files, from where this object is going to create? Now you can see bundle name and a locale. So the locale, now js underscore. So this is the one more file is expecting, but this particular file also we don't have. This particular file also we don't have here. Now same, because of this particular two types here, now it is creating here, but anyway the URL will get as a null. The URL will get as a null. For this particular chain is, what is the information we are going to load, that is important. Now you can see one more we are having zh underscore hands underscore cn. He is expecting this particular file also, but this particular file also we don't have here. Now the URL is null. Again the URL is null we are getting. So it's trying with the multiple cases here, but anyway, for this particular Chinese, we don't have any the property file. Once your property file is not available, we discuss here just now, the bundle object will fail. But still, this method is calling one more time. What is the locale? En. This is important. From where this particular locale is calling en? Getting the point. This is the locale. So far, we did not discuss here, but we are getting this particular locale here. Getting the point. Now, what you need to understand here, if I'm going to explain this, this is important here. So, and it is calling from this, and it is calling from this, and this method will call from this. Okay, and here if you see this, here we are checking this, because now we are inside the loop. Okay, now we are inside this particular loop. What we are doing basically, now this particular loop is going to repeat multiple times. If the original locale is not matched here, the original locale is not matched here. Now what happens internally, it is going to repeat one more time. Now here if you see the target locale, en underscore us. How we are getting this particular en underscore us? So because of this section. This is important, because of this particular section internally it is getting the un underscore. So now you can see locale get to default. If whenever the appropriate property file is not matched, by default it is going to the US. So the US property file also it is not matching, then it will go to the default property file. Okay, training test.default properties, it will try to trigger. But right now, so what is the locale we are having here? Something like here en underscore us. Because of this particular en underscore us, we have a property file. So where is the property file? Here you can see en underscore us. Okay, this property file, whatever the information we are having, the information is going to load. Now if I'm going to disable the breakpoints here, now we'll get the message from the default message. Now you can see computer we are getting, because we don't have the Chinese related property file. Because of this, now it is redirected to the US file. Getting the point? This is very important example we need to discuss. Okay, so yesterday, like I spent some time on this, we debug the code, how it is working internally. Now we got a solution, something like if you are not providing the appropriate property file, it will try to look up the US, and US property file also not available. Now it will go to the default section. Okay, now if I'm going to show you, so the default to like en underscore us, so computer is equals to computer. Okay, computer is equals to computer. So far I identified like Japan as well as Germany. Now we'll give you the German related. We need to see here DE. So here I created DE underscore DE. Okay, now we'll run the same example without the debug here. Now we'll get some idea. So computer. So this is the something like a German related format here. Computer, the name we are going to call in the Germany. This is the format. Okay. So this is the way of providing the all the information, like we are converting into the whatever the specific locale we are going to have. We are trying to converting the particular messages here. Okay. So is it clear? Any questions here? Okay. So if we don't have anything here, now what I will do, we'll move on to the annotations example, because yesterday we discussed about the one of the important example on named parameter jdbc template with help of this particular XML configuration. Where is the file? Here only. Now you can see with help of this particular information, now we configure the all the this particular properties information. But if I want to discuss about the jdbc configuration, this is important, we need to understand here. How we are going to configure here? Getting the point. How we are going to configure this particular example. So observe how we are going to discuss about the annotation. So to discuss about the annotation, first, what are the configuration we provided here? What are the configuration we provided in the previous example? So context annotation config and context component scan base package, something we provided. Okay, this is, we'll try to use this particular section here. So how we can use this particular section here? This is very important like information we need to understand here. Now what I will do, I will try to discuss about the one file first. Okay, spring-jdbc-annotation.xml. This is the file I created. Now, whatever the information we are having, I'm copying into this particular file. I'm copying into this particular file. So this section I will remove here. And what is the annotation we can use it? So something like I'm going to create a package. What is the package we can create? Package com.spring.jdbc. Annotations. Okay. Now this particular package we created. So once we create this particular package, now what we can do? I'm going to copy the same classes here. We can copy. Okay. So I provided all the files into this particular JDBC. If I'm going to show you this information, these are all the classes we are having, and we have a one file here. Now inside this particular jdbc main, again whatever the example we discuss here, the same example we are going to discuss here. But right now, what are all the annotations we need to use here? So we discuss the annotations here. We'll go to the from the service. What is the annotation we can use here? Something like component here. Okay, component I'm using. So I'm trying to use this particular component for this particular service, and internally, so this particular message source. Okay, right now this particular message source we are going to use from the XML configuration. We'll discuss this particular section later, how we can add this particular message source here. Okay, first basic example we'll discuss. Later we'll add the message source related section. Okay, person service we created. Now we'll move on to the person DOO. Okay, this is the person DOO where we can create. First we'll discuss about the person DOO MP, and this is also one more component I'm using, and JDBC template. So JDBC template, here we can use the AutoWare because it is a dependency injection. Okay, because it is a dependency injection. Now observe carefully. So we provided the annotations here. Okay, we provided the annotation. So how many annotations we provided here? Only. So three annotations. So two are the component annotation and one is AutoWire. So why we are using this AutoWire? Here we are trying to discuss about this particular dependency injection C. Because of that, we are using the auto wire. Okay, this is important. Now I will go to this particular like a Spring Core annotation.xml. Oh, not this. So we need to go to this particular jdbc. Here, what is the package we are having? Here we can provide jdbc.annotation. Simple one. Okay, now I created this. Now what we can do, we'll go to this particular main, and here I'm going to modify the file information spring-jdbc annotation.xml. Annotation.xml. The person service is important. Now we'll go to the person service. On top of the component, we can provide the name, whatever the get bean name we are using. We can give this particular get bean name so that it will try to load this particular person service. So, and here we miss the annotation because it is a dependency injection. So here we need to make the something like auto while. After providing this information, anything is pending? Anything is pending, like we created the service annotation, DO annotation, all will come up here. Now we'll run this example. So what is the example we can run? Same thing, we will use the, so far I'm trying to comment out the context section. We'll try to delete this. Okay, the 12 record we are trying to delete. We'll identify the 12 record first is available or not. So before going to discuss about the record, we are getting an exception. We need to understand here what happening internally. So index out of bound 210. From where we are getting it? Here class path XML application context we are loading it. Now we'll see 49409 length person DO IMPL. What is a person DO IMPL? Why we got this exception? Okay, this is we did not implement it so far. So what we can do, we'll replace this section to the named parameter. Right now we did not implemented this. So otherwise we'll try to implement all the code here. Here I'm going to remove this section here. So delete from person where ID is equal to this. Okay, and we'll go to the DO person named parameter. I'm going to copy this and person DO IMPL. I will paste this code. So based on our requirement, we'll modify this particular changes here. Okay, so we don't need this, and here, so jdbc template we need here, and simply we'll call this particular update here. Okay, update is available, and here we'll remove the named here, and we don't need this particular param. Simply, what is the ID we have? So this is we can give. Okay, so I added this particular section of code. Now we'll go to the main file here. Now again, I'm trying to run this example. Now if we go to this, what happening internally? So again we are getting this particular, so index 50433. From where we are getting it? In the now observe carefully what we need to understand here. Here we need to understand here from it is calling line number 13. This is calling line number 13. Okay, it is moving on to the class path, and internally it is trying to create the bean factory. load bean definition, and inside this, what happening internally? So register the bean definition, it is calling it, and inside the like bean definition, we are trying to do some parts here. So here we are doing the some parts information. Now, so it is failed here. Why it is failing? The bean definition store exception. This is important here. So inside this particular Spring JDBC, Spring hyphen JDBC hyphen annotation.xml. So this is we are matching same thing, the file name, and fail to read the candidate component class. Which component class is trying to fail here? Which component class is failing? Something like person DO IMPL. Okay. So what is the annotation we need to use? Now I am going to replace with this annotation as a repository. Okay. So repository I am making here. Now we'll see now what happens internally. What happening internally? Getting the point. So here, whenever I'm using the component, it is not working. But whenever we are using this particular repository, it is working. Getting the point. This is important here. So I want to provide the information on top of the specific classes here. We need to use the specific annotations here. So what are the annotations we are having? First one is component. Okay. And the second one is controller. And another one is service. And another one is repository. Another one is repository. Getting the point. This is important information we need to understand here. These are all the annotations we are going to use here. So component where we are going to use, it's simple model classes. It is a simple model classes. So controller class basically we'll discuss about this particular section in the MVC controller. Like whenever we are trying to send in a request here, the request is going to handle by this particular controller classes here. From the controller, we are going to write the service related section. So far, this particular service basically it will contain the some other transaction related informations. Like on top of these service classes, we cannot make same like a component annotation. But right now we are making it, but there is no much relations here. Okay, because it is a simple application we are using. But when when we are going to get the relation, whenever you are trying to use some transaction related section or any more than one business logic information, so then you cannot go for the component. Again, we'll get the exception. Whatever the exception we identified now, the same exception we are going to get here. Getting the point. So now, so the simple example just now we identified here for this particular repository classes here. Repository internally, it is trying to use the template. It is trying to use the template. Because of this particular template, it is getting an exception. The component we cannot use here. Directly, we need to use the repository. Getting the point. So repository basically it will try to use on all the database related classes. All the business classes we are going to use this particular service classes, service annotation. Okay. Same way for the request related classes we are going to use this particular controller annotation. Okay, this is important. And finally, this component basically it is a simple one of the model class. There is no relations like a controller, the request related, business related repository. So for the simple model classes, we are going to create the component here. Okay. Now if we observe carefully, what happening internally, we are getting a exception occurred. So we'll identify what is the exception we are getting here. Getting the point. We need to understand the what kind of the exception we are getting. But this is we no need to run this section. We need to run this example. Now if you go to this, now we identified here. So again, this section we are getting index 50433. Again we are getting the same information here. So what is the bean definition we are getting here? Now if you see the same person DO class we are getting here. What we are missing? anything we are missing, we need to discuss here. Okay, I made the repository and auto while. Getting the pen. And here, what about this particular jdbc template? Where we are creating this particular jdbc template. So we are providing the annotation for this particular person DOO, but what about this particular jdbc template? Okay, this is important. We need to understand the particular jdbc template. Now, if we observe how it is going to create an object. Now, what I will do, I will copy this particular jdbc property, not this, jdbc xml, data source. I'm pasting this particular data source, but we are not creating any data source because internally it is going to create. So here, another important section, this. Okay, now we'll run the same example. Again, we are getting, it should not get this. What is array index? Let me copy this. Why we are getting this? So what we are missing? This is important here to understand these particular sections here. We need to take the help from the Google so that we will understand what we are missing here. Now, if you see, this is the array index, not wrong here. Not this. I will go to the Spring related example. The Java related we are getting here. Find the candidate component, class path scanning candidate component. Here, fail to read the component class. This exception will identify here what we are missing. Data is not required. Okay, Java it requires Spring 4. It is a version issue here. Okay, we'll use this particular plugin. So if you see here, we are having some version related issues here. Now because of this, it is trying to get an exception. Three to 16. Okay, so these are all some solution we are having. Now what we can do, we'll try to modify our file like a version information 3 to 16, more than 3 to 16. So what is, okay, 312 we are using. So now you can read this. The error basically it is some version related exceptions we are getting it. Get in the pen. What is the version we are using? 312 something we are using. We need to use the version to more than 3 to 6 to handle this particular exception, or what are the another solution? We need to go for the 1.6 here. What is the right now compiler we are using? So the compiler we are having 10 we are using. Okay, so Java 10 version we are using here. Because of this, maybe it is giving me this particular error here. We need to go to this particular apply and close. Let me build this. So these are all the some drawbacks we are going to have whenever we are discussing this particular Spring related. So it should match the appropriate version. So if it is not matching, these are all the some exceptions we are going to get here. So we need to understand the what kind of the exception it is, and how we can use this particular example here. Now you can see the build was success here. Now let me refresh this. I'm getting still errors here. Cast, so I think we don't have this. Simply empty list is not available in the 1.6, so I will return null. Oh, here we are using row count, right? This is also not possible. Okay, now what we can do, we'll try to modify the version. I will go back to the same. 1.8 only we can use. We can go for the same 1.8, but I will modify to the pom.xml versions here. Because if I'm trying to change the 1.6 here, some of the Java related sections no longer available. Because of that, we are getting an exception. So now Maven repository. We'll go to the Maven repository. So check with 3 to 6, more than 3 to 6, whatever the versions we are going to have. Here we are having 3 to 6. Okay, we can go for the 3 to 9 release. And the same thing I'm going to use this particular jdbc also. Now we'll see it is building or not. I think the building is completed. Now I'm trying to build the Maven application with the latest changes we need to build. Okay, finally it is build the applications here. So if I'm going to show you, this is trying to show the 3 to 9 here. Okay, anyway, we'll run the same example. So illegal argument exception we are getting. So where we are getting this particular illegal argument exception. This is important, we need to understand. Now you can see ASM class loader due to, so this is the file. Now if you see person.class, it is expecting this ASM very important section. Here, we'll try to delete these particular classes here. We'll see how these particular classes are going to generate one more time. These are all the version related example. Okay, so all the dot class files are generated here. Now we'll run the same example one more time. Now we'll see what happens internally. Same we are getting. I think same we'll get. Oh my god. So again, fail to candidate nested IO exception probably due to the new Java file version that is not supported yet. This version also it is not supporting here. What we can do? Okay, so we'll take some more help here. Here, what is another change? So this latest changes also it's not working. It is a 1.8. Okay. So he's expecting 4 versions here. So it is the 3 versions also it is not supporting on our Java 8 here. Okay. So we'll change the 4 version related section. We'll see what happens. These are all the some versions related conflict we are getting here because we are using 1.2 more than 1.28 here. Because of this, we are getting this particular exceptions here. Now, I'm trying to download 4 versions here. Okay, anyway, we can download this particular 4 versions. Now you can see. Let me rebuild the application. Okay, so rebuild also completed. Now I'm going to run this. Okay, so we expected this exception. Now we are getting this. Now you can see all the version related exception we identified. Now you can see the property driver class name. Whatever the driver class name we are using could not load the jdbc driver class name. Now what we are missing? The property related section here. Hidden the pen. The property related section. So what we can do? We need to give this particular information. What is the information we need to give? Where is the property information? This property. Now I'm going to pass here property. Okay. Now I'm going to run same example. Now exception is occurred here. Now what is an exception is occurred? Now to understand more information, what we can do? We'll go to this particular person DYMPL and in the delete exception, I will comment out this. I will comment out this. Okay. Again, I'm going to run so that we can identify what kind of the exception it is. What happened? Maybe we'll comment out this also. It should throw an exception. Oh, delete is performing successfully. Whether we are having the 12 record here. Okay, so 12 record is not available. Now, what we can do? Okay, so if the record is not available, something it is not throwing any exception. Okay, now you can see it is not throwing any exception. Simply, because of this particular void method, it is not throwing any exception. Now what I will do, I will remove this. I will remove this particular example like auto void and repository. From this particular repository to now I'm changing to the named parameter. And here I'm going to use the same auto void concept here. Now I'm running the same example. Now what we are doing is we're trying to replace it with a named parameter. Now you can see, so here we are getting the no qualifying here. So named parameter jdbc template, and internally dependency we are getting expected at least one dependency which qualifies here. So it is the dependency exception here. So we are making auto-var. Where we are making the auto-var? In the %devo this. So we need to remove this auto-var here. Hidden point. This is important here. Now again I'm trying to run the same example. Now what we are having? Again we are getting the same exception. Anything we are missing? Named parameter found for the dependency expected. Maybe it is because of the naming convention. Okay, it is trying to create the name convention with auto while required true. No qualifying bean. Okay, it is not identifying this particular name or parameter. So why it is not identifying here? We'll go to this %do name and identifier. Anything we are missing? Set to template. This is not a matter. Repository %do. Anything we are adding? Nothing. So it should work here. Person service. Okay, person service internally it is expecting 2. So which qualifies 1. Now I am going to create the name of the object with the help of this particular template. Now I will go to the person service. And here template I am giving. I am going to run the same example. Oh, again we are getting no such bean definition. Okay, this bean is not creating basically. Could not auto-wear the field. So you can see the bean creation exception itself it is failing. Why it is failing? Okay, this is important because of the dependency. Now we need to go to this particular file. Where is the file? This file. Here, what we identified here. So jdbc template internally it is expecting this, but right now we need to comment this, and here we need to create the named parameter section. Whatever the named parameter we are having, this we need to pass here. Getting the point. So as of now, only we are excluding the 2 sections here, the important section something like person service and person do. So remaining we are trying to create the object as it is here. So the remaining, okay, here maybe we'll get the 2 objects. Now I hope found dependency at least 1. Okay, qualifier it is throwing an exception. We'll go to this, remove this, it is not needed, and in the person service also it is not needed. The qualifier it is throwing an exception. I will explain this once this issue is resolved. Now you can see the exception is occurred here. Okay, finally it is connecting here. But what you need to understand, this is important information you need to understand here. So if I'm going to show you what are all the objects we created here. So data source we created, and the named parameter template we created. Earlier we created the jdbc template. So what are all the object is excluded? Only person service and the person do, because the person service and person do how we are using with the help of this particular properties here. So like component annotation we are making on top of this particular person service, and for this particular person EO we are making this particular repository. Okay, this is important. Now I want to make the annotation for this particular classes also. I don't want to keep anything this section. So data source also I don't want to keep, and here the name or parameter jdbc template also I don't want to keep. So what is the solution? Getting the point? What is the solution for this? This is important here. To use this particular entire like exclude configurations here, we need to go for the another class here. Getting the point? This another class basically it will give you the informations here. It will give you the lot of information. So inside the annotation, now I'm trying to create the particular class called something like Spring jdbc config. Okay, this particular class, getting the point? This particular class we are going to use configuration. Okay, after configuration, I am going to use component, not component, component scan. Getting the point? This is the component scan we need to use it, and for this particular component scan, it is expecting base package. It is expecting this particular base package. We need to understand here how this particular base package is going to use. Now here I'm going to provide the base package. So what is the base package we are using? If you go to this section, this is the same. So here component is scan. Here we are using the attribute, and in the annotation example we are using the annotation. Okay, there is no differences, and the same property we are using the base package here and there also. What we need to pass? This is we need to pass. Now I'm trying to pass this particular base package. Okay. After this, now what I'm doing is I'm trying to create the placeholder property source here. Okay, this particular property source I'm going to provide, and where this particular properties are available. Where these particular properties are available, the properties are available at a class path. And what is the name of the property file? Now if you go to this, what is the property file we provided? Something like spring-jdbc.properties. Okay, this is the property loader I'm using, and same I'm passing here. Now the property source is completed. So after this, now what we will do, we need to load the properties and we need to set into the data source. So to set this particular data source here, what I'm doing here, I'm going to use one annotation called bean, and this particular bean I'm going to use to the data source. Okay, data source, and here data source get to data source I'm using, and after this here I need to use this particular bean annotation. So why I'm using this particular bean annotation? Internally it is going to use the bean tag. Whatever the bean tag we implemented, it is trying to use the same bean tag. And here what is the object we are creating? Something like driver manager data source. Okay, data source is equals to new driver manager data source, and here you can pass all the properties here. So like data source, set driver class name. Do we have that? Here we are having driver class name. So we need to load the driver class name. Where the driver class name is available? Under the property file. This is the property file. Inside the property file we are having the driver class name. Now what is the environment, like what is the information we can use? So if we observe, this is important, and here I'm trying to use so constants I'm going to provide final string, and driver class name. Okay, what is the driver class name we can use here? Something like here, it should match here. We'll go to this string jdbc properties here. This is we need to use database driver. And the same way, and another one, URL. So this is database URL. Okay, and sorry, private final string. And what we can use here, database username string password. Okay, so this is we'll try to use post. So not postgres. Sorry, what we provided there, database username, and finally database password. So these are all the properties, and I'm going to use one of the important this section is important here, environment. Using this particular environment, we are going to load the values from the sources information. Okay, and we need to make auto void. This object automatically will create here. Driver environment dot get property. What is the property we can use here? Something like a driver class name. Okay, data source dot URL, environment dot get property driver URL, data source dot set here username, environment dot get property and username, and data source dot set property get property something like password. And finally, we'll need to return data source. Okay, this is important. Whatever this particular data source we are having, this particular data source we created. Okay, now what we need to create here? We need to create this particular named parameter jdbc template. So how we can create? One more method we need to declare here, and here, so named parameter template here. So internally, named parameter jdbc template, get a template, it will create here. Get template, named parameter jdbc template. So get data source I'm calling. Okay, so it's simply it will return this, return template, and this method also should be annotated with B in here. Now we created this. Okay, these are all the information is fine. Now finally we are having the database data source and named parameter JDBC template, and another one the all the classes we come up with the stereotype annotations here. Now what we can do, we need to go to this particular main file here. Okay, the main file, how I'm going to create this is important, we need to understand. Here if you go to this, where is the file? Main file. Here, this section I'm going to comment out, and here application context is equals to new annotation config application context, and here what is the configuration class we are having? Something like Spring JDBC config.class. This is we need to provide, and after this, now what we can identify here? So directly we can call this, and same I'm going to call this. If everything is go successfully, getting the pen, we need to get exception message. Now you can see exception occurred. Now if I want to insert this section, now what we can do? I'm trying to copy this, I'm replacing this. So we need to see 16 record is available. So with help of this particular 17 and Spring JDBC, and here I can discuss about the annotation example. Annotation example. Okay. Now I'm running this example. So inserted one record successfully. If I'm going to show you, the second record is inserted. Okay, the 17 record is inserted. But what you need to understand here, this example, whatever this example we are discussing, there is no single line of XML classes. Getting the point? There is no single line of XML classes. The previous example we discussed about the XML related, and now we are discussing about the all the annotation. So this is the class, the whatever the Spring JDBC config class we used here. This particular class now internally it is replaced with our XML class. Our whatever the XML class we created this. Okay, these are all the section now internally. It will go to the configuration class. Okay. Any questions regarding this particular annotation example?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, where you use repository annotation?
Repository annotation. If you go to this, here we are using the named parameter JDBC template where we are using, because this template basically it will connect the database related sections. So whatever the database related classes are going to connect, you can make this repository.
Database connection.
Yes. Because here we are having the particular example. So on top of the controller related sections, we need to go for the controller classes. We discuss the controller in the MVC, and the service basically here we are creating one person service. But right now we did not make this service as a service annotation. We come up with only component because there is no much code here. We are not using the transaction related sections. Simply we come up with a single line of statements here we can use. But when you are trying to use the multiple lines with the different integration parts, then you will get an exception. You need to use the service annotation, not component annotation. Okay, so far we don't have much code. I am using the component, but on top of all the service classes, it is important to use the service annotations. On top of the database related classes, we can go for the repository. On top of the controller related, like request related classes, we can make on the controller. In any one of the class, if the three sections are not satisfied, those classes we can make component. Like for example, utility class is there. If we want to create an object of this particular utility, you can make a component here. It will work here. Okay, so here we are not doing any methods information, so simply I am not making anything, but what we can do, we can make this section, and whatever we are having this right now in the jdbc configure, this we can make into the this section we can move into the our jdbc utilities here. Here we can write database configuration. Getting the point? And now how we can use here? First we need to make public. This is important because we are trying to access outside. And here another one, static we need to make. Why we need to make static? Because without the object creation, we are going to access this particular section here. Okay, without this particular object, we are going to access. Now finally, I'm going to copy this, and here I will paste it here. So how we can paste? Driver jdbc utility driver class name, and here. Okay, why I'm explaining this? Because in the real time we'll following the same pattern. Whatever the common property we are having, we'll try to create in the specific locations, so that wherever it is required, we'll try to reuse the same. Instead of recreating, we are going to reusing this. So those classes will make as some utilities here. Okay. Now, if I'm going to run the same example, I'm going to make something 18. So I'm not making the other fields here. Just simply I'm making here. Now we'll see what happening internally. So duplicate key violations we are getting. Duplicate key violation. So here if you see why we are getting this duplicate key. 18 is not there, right? Okay, now I understand. So what we are making, first name unique. The first name is unique. Because of this particular unique, we are getting an exception. Because the Spring JDBC already we provided here. Now again, we are trying to inserting one more record. Maybe because of this, it is throwing an exception. Now you can see person dot first name. The first name is trying to throw an exception. Okay. Now I will make one here. Now we'll run this. So inserted one record successfully. After modifying this particular information into the database configurations here. Okay, so this is the way of writing this particular the real-time application. But finally, now we come up with without a single line of config like XML information. But only the problem, whenever we are trying to work with this particular Spring, you need to follow the appropriate version. It needs to match with our Java version. So we identify some two exceptions we are getting here. So we need to handle those two exceptions by analysis the code, like where we are having and what is the version conflict here. But this section, it is not going to happen in the Spring Boot. Okay, so this section we will discuss in the upcoming classes here. So any questions regarding our today's session? Okay, so if you don't have anything, now I'm going to stop the session here and we'll continue on Monday and try to practice so far the core module as well as the Spring JDBC. On Monday, we'll discuss about the Hibernate concepts here. So once we complete the Hibernate, we'll come back to the Spring and we'll discuss about the integration part, Spring with Hibernate. So later we'll discuss about the transaction related sections here. Okay, so we'll continue on Monday.